Hey guys, it's me, it's May to December, it's me, and I'm back again with another review, this time of Seed of Chucky from 2004. Oh, uh, written and directed by Don Mancini himself. Now, he did the other five, he was writing the other five movies, and he decided to take the director's helm. So you're like, oh, it might be good, oh, it's going to be okay. Number three was terrible, but the others are quite not bad. The film stars Brad Dourif, obviously, as Chucky. You can't replace Brad Dourif. He's like an icon now, like Doug Bradley, Robert Englund, and so forth. Jennifer Tilly plays Tiffany and plays herself. Billy Boyd plays Glenn Glenda. Redman plays himself. Hannah Spirit plays Joan. She was in S Club 7. Gonna show you how. S Club. John Waters plays Pete Peters. And then you've got other people who are in it, like Stan and a lot of people that you don't really care about. So basically, the film starts out with this scene, with these people holding this doll, but you don't see it because you see it like POV shot, first person through the eyes. And they're going, oh, what an ugly doll, and all this, and they throw it into a trunk because this little girl's known she's throwing it away for the day. So it gets out and it goes around following people and it stabs the dad in the chest when he picks it up. You don't see the doll, you just see the knife and that. So he goes flying over, then it runs back up the stairs and goes to kill the woman in the bathtub. I'm guessing it's her mum. She slips and kills herself by smashing her head down on the floor. And then the daughter, he basically goes something like, you killed my parents. And then you see an image in the mirror of this really ugly looking doll, which looks a lot like Helena Bonham Carter. I think that's how you say. Looks just like her. And she's ugly. So, I'm like, ugh, bloody hell. So then he wakes up. And he doesn't know why he's having these dreams. And in reality, he won't hurt a fly because he's very gentle. And it just looks so creepy and acts creepy. And it turns out that he's at this thing in England doing a ventriloquist. Basically, they have the doll when they do the talking for the doll, alright? And basically the bloke's really, really mean to him and really horrible and calls him, he says he's pissing himself and calls him shitface and all sorts of things. So you're like, wow, what a poor kid. So eventually he gets out and you see him running up the road as the guy's chasing after him. And it's really, really pathetic, that bit. But before I carry on, I'd like to say the first few minutes at the beginning where you don't see the eyes and that, you don't see who the doll is. It's a really good creepy shot. I really like that first bit. I just wanted to put that in there. So he gets on the back of a truck, gets away, and then he goes to the movie studios because while he was in captive, he sees Chucky and Tiffany on the TV as big stars in the movie called Chucky Goes Psycho, which is basically based on Chucky and Tiffany apparently killing people. And it's just like, oh. And then while that's happening, while he's on his way to the movie studio, you got Jennifer Tilly playing herself, who's trying to get the role of in some sort of biblical movie as Mary from the rapper turned director Redman. And basically Redman is like, oh no, I don't think you matched the thing, even though he's looking at her breast the whole time. And he goes, I've only got my first choice. And Jennifer Tilly goes, who's that? And he goes, Julia Roberts, because all she ever says in the movie is Julia Roberts stole Erin Brockovich and that from her. And he's sitting there going, oh, no, So basically, Glenn is living in movie studios in the prop room where Chucky and Tiffany are late. Well, the dolls, I would say. And basically, Glenn pulls out the heart of Dambola, and only his mother had given him long ago, and he recites the chant which brings Chucky and Tiffany to life. As soon as they found out they were parents, they had different reactions. Chucky fainted, and Tiffany was simply aghast. Suddenly, in came the prop man. He started to operate on Tiffany But that's when Chucky grabs a tripwire, and together with Tiffany, they brutally dismember his head, and basically his head goes flying. They then make out together while there's blood squirting, and they've got blood all over their face. And Glenn watches in horror, basically, because he's like, they're crazy. So Jennifer Tilly came in that moment, saw the murder. She fled a media circus and went home with her chauffeur. But the problem is, she picks up the head and starts kissing, going, oh, you're so real, and all this. And then she realizes it is real, and she legs it. Redmond and Jennifer Tilly basically have this romantic meal, and you've got Chucky masturbating up in the toilet, restroom, toilet, bathroom, whatever you want to call it. And then you've got Tiffany behind them on the couch, and then you've got the cameraman taking pictures outside, and he's like, oh yeah, look all this footage I've got. Yes. Like the gods are smiling on him. Tiffany comes out and tells them. They end up passing out. Chucky takes Glenn, and they end up killing the photographer. But the photographer basically gets killed by accident because he sees Glenn trying to stop him, because Glenn goes, no, and he sees him, and he falls back, gets sulfuric acid falling on him, and dies that way. And then you get Chucky. Oh yeah, and on the way they bump into Brittany on the road, so Chucky rams her off the road, and you're just like, this isn't the way a Chucky movie should be. You're just sitting there going, it's going to be too much on the jokes, and some of them work and some of them don't. Like when Jennifer Tilly's got Redman on the couch and she says to him, oh, what's your favourite film of mine? And he basically says Bound, and he goes, do you talk to Gina Gershon anymore? And she goes, yes, we're close friends, very close friends. And you're just laughing because it's hysterical. So the movie overall is not really good. It gets to the point where Chucky and Tiffany tie up Jennifer Tilly and prepare the ritual near the end. And that's when they each discover their secret murders, because they've been killed throughout the film. They fight, and Tiffany says she's taking Glenn and leaving Chucky. Chucky gets enraged and says nobody leaves him, basically. That's when Jennifer's assistant Jones stops by, and when Tiffany sets her on fire. Only it wasn't Tiffany, it was a psychotic, gender-confused Glenn in a blonde wig. Pretty soon Jennifer's pregnancy, which is really sped up due to it being a voodoo pregnancy, began to act up, and the baby was coming. It was twins, a boy and a girl, which makes it confusing because Chucky and Tiffany were both like, whatever sex the baby is, that can be the sex that Glenn is, or Glenda. Pretty soon the police arrive. Jennifer is taken to the hospital. Tiffany and Glenn had followed. Tiffany performs the body switching with Jennifer, and that's when Chucky shows up and axes Tiffany in the head. But still, psychotic Glenn picked up the axe and completely dismembers his father. 5 years later, Jennifer lived happily with her new children, Glenn and Glenda, but the spirit of Tiffany seemed to live on, and so did the spirit of Chucky. Glenn found that out the hard way when he opens a birthday present from an anonymous person, and Chucky's arm comes out at him. The movie is just not that great. Like, Jennifer Tilly's dating this chauffeur, and apparently she has sex with him and he's madly in love with her. Throughout the whole film, there's this joke about, is he ever going to get to say he loves her? And then he gets a knife in the chest, and he's laying there on her lap, and he goes, oh, Jennifer, and she goes, tell me, and he goes, and he dies, and you're just like, yeah, it's okay, I guess, but that was disappointing. The whole thing with the Glenda gender confused doll was a bit weird and all. Glenn was disturbing as he was normally, and I don't mean this horrible to anybody who is female inside and is a man on the outside, or vice versa, but because that's not creepy at all. But when you've got a doll that just constantly going around going blah 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 and just getting on your nerves so much, it's like, just get on with it. Get on with it, like, oh, be a boy, be a girl, either. And then when he did turn into the girl, dressed now as Tiffany, he was extremely creepy because he was like, hey, 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 and you're just like, oh no, you're just sitting there like, oh. So anyway, Jennifer Tilly, who plays herself and plays Tiffany, is great. She makes fun of herself the whole time. She says things for like her career's down the toilet. And to a degree, I think at the time it was, from what a lot of people I read that said, but her career wasn't on the height it used to be. But it's one of those movies where if you like horror comedies more than you like horror, it's like any film in a franchise. You've always got the really, really bad one that's got nothing to really do with the horror, because it seems to be more about Glenda and Tiffany than it does Chucky. It's like it takes a back seat in this movie, and you watch it and you just think to yourself, when are the deaths coming? And when they do come, they're not that great. The first one in the prop room is fairly good. I like that one, but it just didn't feel like a Chucky or Child's Play movie. It felt like watching a soap opera with killer dolls in it running around, and it just wasn't a good film. I'd like to say it was a really, really good film, but it wasn't. Disappointing, and I remembered watching it years ago and not liking it then. Redman should have never been in it because he can't act for crap, in my view. All the other people in it were decent to bad. And the storyline, like I said, the storyline is just, oh. So I'd give it a 2.0. I'm going to give it a 2 out of 5 stars because some of the comedy works and it's still bearable to watch. But it's not your average Chucky film. It's not really a Child's Play film, not really. I want horror. I want some comedy, but I want horror. The horror gets pushed to the backbone and it ends up more of a comedy. And I think the whole idea of making Glenda basically a sexually confused doll, they should have made it where the doll was like more twisted and had both of them in it and been really, really, psycho. It should have been like a multi-personality doll or something, where one minute it's really, really nice, the next minute it's psycho. That would have been more interesting. So anyway, I'll give it a 2 out of 5 stars. I wouldn't recommend watching this. I'd say skip it unless you're really into really bad comedy from a series that was originally a great horror series. I'd recommend it then. But other than that, if you liked A New Nightmare and you liked Friday the 13th Part 5, you'll probably like it. But other than that, nah. So anyway, guys, thanks for watching. And I hope you have a lovely day. And take care.